Cool, guys. So this is a marketing hour, live IM Talk Radio. Obviously, it's our second episode, so we had a little bit of technical difficulty here. But on today's show, we have our special guest, David Schloss, who's going to talk to us about how doing Facebook ads correctly. But it's not going to be like an hour-long training type thing because, as you know, we like to do things rough and ready. But I think you guys are going to find it valuable. And then later on in the show, we're going to talk about forming strategic relationships with affiliates for your business. So, Bill, David, thanks for being here, guys.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Did we lose Bill? Well, if we lose Bill, thing is, Bill's at a soccer game with his child right now, doing whatever he wants because that's how IM works. I'm sure if he can get back in, he will. So, David, I've been doing Facebook ads now for 2 months, running tests, doing this, doing that. I've tried running them to opt-in pages. I've tried running them to opt-in pages with follow-up sequences to warm them up. I've tried sending them directly to review pages. None of it seems to be working, and I have no clue what I'm doing wrong. And from what I hear, you are the Facebook expert when it comes to Facebook ads. So tell me about it. Like, what is your? Oh shit, Bill's back with video. Um, tell me about. Give me in a short 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Tell me about what you think most people are doing wrong with Facebook, and then what you're doing that's working so well.
Sure. So, I've been running Facebook ads for 4.5 years now, and it's sort of evolved from being the, first point of contact. You could literally just send people straight to a webinar page or an offer, and they would just buy. They may not even know who you are, they may not care who you are, and yet they'll go ahead and buy something. What I find being the case more this year, not just in the last couple of weeks, but just the whole year, is that you have to nurture yourself or put yourself in front of these people more often before they trust you enough to go buy something. And a lot of people make that mistake when they run Facebook ads. They just think you could send someone straight to an offer and you're good to go. Now, unless you're sending them to an audience of people who already know who you are, like your email list, it's becoming a lot tougher for someone like, let's say me, running it to an audience who's never seen me before or bought something from me before, and building enough trust with them within the first point of contact with an ad to have them buy from me or even opt in to something from me. And so, go
Is
ahead.
your goal to get them on your list and then spend like the first week or two building a relationship before asking for the sale, or do you get the sale right off the bat?
So, my core objective with most of my clients, and not all, but most of them, is we get them to become familiar with you first with a piece of content or some sort of opt-in, right? So the opt-in, you can easily just get them on the list, nurture them with an email sequence, but we don't sell them within the first week. We wait until the second week to start selling. If you're doing that with a piece of content, you're going to send them to something that's more case study based, and there's a call to action within the piece of content to get them to sign up for your list anyway. But the point is, you're giving away so much up front that they trust you enough to then want more.
So
And
really, what I'm hearing is the way to do Facebook ads correctly is get them on your list with a free gift, and then spend the next week building a relationship with them, treating them right, treating them like humans,
mhm.
and then you start promoting things to them. Right? Is that kind of how it's going?
Yep, yep, and that's not just for product owners, but coaches or anything. I mean, I have people in the real estate investment space who are my clients, and we have to nurture potential investors to understand our investment philosophy before we bring up all the potential investing possibilities they have with that person. And so it's the same thing in any niche. Nurture the people, get them to understand who you are, your story, your why, then you could start selling something to them because they've already become familiar with who you are.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. People treat Facebook ads sort of like, like they're trying to go for the home run right off the bat. So it's like they're getting up to the plate and they're like, if I don't hit a home run, this is a failure. You know, I'd rather hit a bunch of singles and get people to move me along the bases before I get home, and that's just getting the sale. So
Isn't that historically been like the problem with just marketing in general? I mean, that's when people decide it doesn't work, right? They go for the home run, They don't even hit a single. They strike out, and then they think it doesn't work. And that's where guys like you come in and just be like, no, you actually got to do some work here, right? Like, hasn't that always been the thing? Like, whether it's Facebook or email marketing or just trying to build your list so people will actually pay attention and follow, everyone goes for that jugular right away, right? And are you finding that, like before, it wasn't like really push buttons? I remember, yeah, you could like go straight to the webinars and stuff, but like there was still a little bit of work, and the guys that were making the most were maximizing it with this, I don't know, let's call it a lead-in that you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll start off with like the webinar stuff really quick. You know, I still send people straight to a webinar page from an ad and never nurture in the beginning before sending them to the webinar page. Some of my clients just want the quick hit. You know, they just want to go for home runs right off the bat. You make the client happy, you give them what you want. Does that mean that I agree with the philosophy? No, absolutely not. But hey, if that's what you want, I'm going to give it to you, right? Now,
can I just ask that one question on there? That also comes to play with what each one of your clients is willing to do or the risk they're willing to tolerate with their capital, right?
Yep, exactly. So I have some clients, for example, where their marketing budget's $50,000 a month. So I could say, hey, let's just allocate 10 to getting people to know who you are, and we could spend the remaining 40 on your promotions, right? Then you got some people who come to you and they say, I only have $1,000. So their first thing is going to be, I need to get some sales. I need to send people straight to the offer. I need to get them on the webinar. And that's fine. I understand that. You also understand you could strike out completely and lose all $1,000, or you could spend your time understanding your market and using the $1,000 as research so that the next 1,000 you spend, you can actually make double, triple, or quadruple your money back. People are impatient.
Let me ask you this. When you send into an opt-in page,
Yep.
and they opt in for a free gift, I've heard people that say after they hit the opt-in button, they redirect them to an offer to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that at all, and does that work?
It does work, and it works well when you have an established brand. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I have a couple of clients where we do an opt-in that redirects to like a $7 or $10 item just to like recoup some ad cost, and it's basically just expanding on what's already in the opt-in. So let's say the opt-in's like, 10 ways you could lower the cost of your Facebook ads. Once you opt in for that gift, the first offer that'll pop up is, how about I give you, 3 case studies and 5 instructional videos that take this opt-in and really expand upon it. Let's just say it's $10. Mm-hmm. What will happen is some people will take up the offer and some won't. You're really not going to recoup all your money back, but at least you're getting something, right? And there's a lot of people who are doing that, not just for opt-in campaigns, they're also doing that for webinars.
I saw Frank Kern do that. Anytime somebody signs up for a Frank Kern webinar, it automatically redirects to an offer saying, hey, I don't sell this anymore, but since you're joining the webinar, here's your one chance to pick it up.
Yeah. You also have to consider he's Frank Kern.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Kern is a genius. Now, let me ask you this. After they get redirected to that offer, and I assume you do that on most of your campaigns, do you hit them with upsells after they buy that front end to try to recoup even more cost, or is it just one offer only?
One off, and the upsells come through the email.
So if they buy that, they get put onto a different list that has a different follow-up sequence that then talks about the upsells.
Exactly. Because you want them to actually consume that offer for at least 24 to 48 hours before you start hammering them with other stuff. You don't want them to buy something and then want to leave you within 24 hours.
Okay, so you kind of segment 2 different ways. You get them to come on your list, and if they opt in and don't buy anything, they get put on one list, which is the relationship building list. But if they do buy, they get put on the other list, where it's part relationship building, but also part trying to get them to pick up upsells so that you can recoup your costs.
Exactly. Because they've already expressed some sort of buying mentality.
Okay, that's brilliant. That is really, really brilliant. What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah, man, I think that's I was hit with a point here. I'm just looking at all these people. We were talking about that yesterday. I like the point that you made. Like, I know there's going to be some stuff that you'll talk about that is awesome that I won't single in on. But when you talked about the 24 to 48 hour consumption period, that's my favorite part, because that's your moment to get them to fall in love with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And enjoy the content and want to buy that even more. So I think one of the things that people overlook, and I don't want them to overlook, is what you just made mention of, because I was talking to the intern about that yesterday. that first 24, 48 hours is the most important time in your life. And it's just good to hear that applies to Facebook ads as well, right? So I don't know. I love what he's saying. I want to pick up those little bits that make the difference, because I think far too often people, whether it's with paid traffic or it's Facebook or it's solos or whatever it is, I think they miss out that when they do get that buy, there's that 24-hour, 48-hour window where people actually do begin to cultivate that love and desire to follow even more. So I think that was a great point and a huge one that could help a lot of people.
Yeah, and also consider this. You know, it's not just happening in the IM space. It's happening in e-commerce. You know, all the big Shopify guys are starting to see this too, where I could send someone straight to a shirt, straight to a trinket, whatever it may be, and they're even having some difficulty in getting people to buy up front. Right? They're having to nurture people too. Yeah. It's not just happening in IM, it's happening everywhere. People are starting to become a little more hesitant in buying something or even opting in for something from you when they don't know who you are. But when they do buy something, don't try to hammer them with a bunch of stuff. Give them some time to actually consume what it is they want. You know, and it's coming up all across the board. I'm not just seeing this in IM. It's everyone that I deal with.
Well, it's familiarity. I mean, if you combine all the mediums that we have today for people to at least be introduced to another concept or product or idea, like they're all over the place. So that window to get them to fall in love with you, I think it's the most important part of it all. I mean, let's say your ads aren't the greatest, they're not converting the best, but you're still getting people in. That 24 to 48 hour window is so important no matter what you're doing, because people have just so many choices today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like what makes them want to continue on looking for you, whether it's a T-shirt or it's a puppy love phone case, right? Like, or it's an information product, or it's an investment that you're talking about. I really like that you said that, because there's so many different niches that this is popping and just jumping in. And if we have any local businesses out there that don't think that this is really for them, like, think again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, in your opinion, David, in the top, like, rank these out of the top 3. What are the best 3 types of campaigns to run? Because obviously you could run Facebook ads to webinars, you could run them to build a relationship, to promote affiliate offers. Mm-hmm. I mean, in your opinion, what has been the most profitable way to do it for you?
Well, lately, I mean, webinars are still my number one. But I'll put a little disclaimer here. It's webinars with people who've run webinars consistently, meaning they've been out there enough and advertised themselves enough where people are familiar with the fact that they've run a webinar, right? So that's the big disclaimer there. Webinars are incredibly profitable. The next best campaign that I've run is, it could be classified as a lead gen campaign, but it's a coaching funnel, right? So the objective at the end is to do some form of coaching, which I know Bill absolutely loves. And so it's getting them onto the list, but eventually getting them to apply for your program and then getting them on the phone to close them. That's a high-ticket funnel, right? That's the next best thing that I like to run. And then the third one, if you're just doing strictly lead gen, I mean, you can't go wrong with just getting people onto your list. I love those funnels, but those are more along the lines of, no one really knows who I am. I just want some people on my list so I can nurture them a little bit, get them to know me, and then eventually down the road I might put them through something more complex. So if I had to rank it, you go webinar, high-ticket coaching funnel, and then just standard lead gen.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to try, because I'm about to start pitching my email marketing group coaching, and that's all going to be straight through Facebook traffic. And that's why I wanted to get you on the call, because I know you have a lot more experience at this than a lot of other people. And see, the issue the industry is facing right now is that since the Warrior Forum died, there's just been a severe lack of new customers coming in.
Yep.
And so my hope with this podcast, because last week we talked about it, my hope with this podcast is that people will take these strategies and start bringing new people in, right? So let me ask you this. How do you do your targeting? How do you target to make sure that you're reaching people that would possibly be interested in internet marketing?
All right, so there's a couple ways of doing this, right? There's the easy approach, which is what most people are going to do, and I'm sure once I say this, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I do that already. The easiest one is to find the influencers, the authors, or just people who are known in your space to target first, right? So in IM, who are the standard or the main culprits that people go after? Your Ryan Dices, your Frank Kearns, your Mike Sams, your Andy Jenkins, your Amy Porterfield. I have like a list of 150 that are most common that IMers target, right? It's a pretty standard list. Everyone targets them. The thing is that everyone's targeting them. Now, there's nothing wrong with you doing that because there's obviously customers in internet marketing in these spaces, especially if you're going after, let's just say, for example, like Amy Porterfield or Marie Forleo or Derek Halpern or Lewis Howes. There's a lot of internet marketers that follow these well-known people in our space, right? And they would be considered more of like the top-tier people with millions and millions of followers, right? Or even Dice for that matter. But because so many people are following them, your click costs are much higher, your CPMs are incredibly high, and so you're having to battle for which ads are most engaging so that your costs go lower, and then you got to worry about whether or not it's going to convert. Yeah. But it's also the easiest audiences to go after to start building your list or getting people onto your webinar.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is you pay for the traffic, you send them to the squeeze page. Mm-hmm. They opt in. After they opt in, they get sent to a potential offer to buy. If they buy, they get put on a separate list. If they don't buy, they get put on a relationship building list.
Yep.
And you do not ask for the sale until after a week of relationship with content building.
Yeah, if you're doing a standard lead gen campaign, I wait at least a week before we start to promote anything to these people.
Have you done anything with video ads? Because video ads are supposed to be a lot cheaper than normal ads.
Right. So I'll put that into sort of like the rotation of things right now. So, by the way, the second way that you'd find some interesting people to sort of convert them over to IM, and that's what I've been focusing on more, is you go after the broader interests, but introduce them to what is related to them and how they can utilize internet marketing tactics for their business. Example, I could target a bunch of people in real estate and show them how they can use Facebook ads in their real estate business and get more, potential clients that would want to sell their home, right? So there's a connection between the IM strategy and their business. So I'm able to convert a realtor, a real estate broker, or an investor over to the marketing space because they want to use my strategy. I've been doing that more and getting people to convert over, and thus less barrier to entry, and they trust you a lot quicker because they're not saying, oh, I've bought something from this person before and maybe I didn't like it, or there's any other preconceived notion. Now, the way that you could build the trust a lot quicker is doing a video ad. Video ads work incredibly well when you are on camera, like we are right now, and people get to know who you are. It doesn't have to be super professional. You don't need to spend, $2,000 on equipment to eventually get on camera and be awkward. If you're naturally awkward, you need to do more videos. But the point is you need to get in front of the camera so people know who you are. And once they know who you are, more and more and more, once you throw up an ad with a video and they know this face, whoever's face it may be, your click costs are going to be cheaper. Your view cost is always going to be cheaper because views are stupid cheap right now. It's like buying on AdWords for the first time years ago. It's just like that. And so run some video ads. The main thing you got to be aware of, though, is are they generating clicks and are they getting leads? Anyone can get cheap views, and I'm tired of people posting screenshots of bullshit views where they're getting, 1 cent views and less than 1 cent. That's great. How many clicks and leads did you get? Because if you're just trying to build rapport with your audience, I can get, views for 1/100th of a cent. That doesn't mean shit. So, just be careful where you're getting that info from. But video ads work incredibly well if you can get people to take the next step.
Interesting. So, Bill, what do you...
Well, they got to care, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to follow that. I mean, look, there's ads that come up that are video ads to JVs all the time, and the people's video ads that I pay attention to are the ones I already have a rapport with. Or people that I know through the business and the industry. So it makes total sense, and I'm glad you said that because I can't stand seeing the views. Because once you do just one video ad, you're like, wow, views are not hard to get at all. It's about making those actually turn into some cash. So I really like that. And I love the way that you're going, David. I do want to ask you a little bit though, because people, what we're talking about right now is kind of what everybody talks about. And I think what we're missing is the, let's talk about money here. Let's talk about acquisition costs. Let's talk about about price per unit. You know what I mean? Like, let's let people kind of have a realistic understanding of this, because it's not. And I've done my fair share of Facebook ads. I'm not your level at all, but I get them. I understand how they work. I can help fill my webinars with them, and I'm happy about that. But I understand my costs. And when I started out, I had a real fucked up concept of what it was going to cost me to land a coaching client to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And obviously it goes down the more that I do it, the more I refine. But like at the beginning, if you've got someone, let's run with, say, a 5K coaching program, and someone may be excited with everything you've had to say and want to go out and run this, but they've got $1,000, like that's just not realistic. That's just not realistic. It's not often that you're going to go out the first time and hammer out 1,000 on your first go, with your first ads, with your first webinar, with your first swipes, with your first follow-up, and your first pre-sale. It's not often that you're going to take that and turn that into, a 400% ROI. Right. So what's real? What are people looking at when it comes to dollar figures? And break it down maybe for coaching and for, like, the folk that just want to get a $47 sale.
Okay.
Like, how much Lossley, or how many dollars can we expect to throw out roughly per? And I know it's not fixed, but
sure. So actually, I'll even throw in the webinar one too, because that's also incredibly important for a lot of people. So cool. Let's do coaching first. If, let's say, your coaching program is a $3,000 coaching program, right? And you are going to be running the ads yourself. If your program's $3,000, you need to have $3,000 to spend. Period. The point of that being, you may actually need the $3,000 to acquire your first customer and at least break even. Especially if you're not known, especially if you've never tested the funnel. There's a lot of open loops when it comes to running the ads, taking them through the funnel, getting them on the phone, because you're going to need X amount of applications in order to close the first person, right? So there's a lot of factors. When I work with someone who has, let's say, a $10,000 offer for coaching, I tell them that I can't run ads for them unless they have at least $10,000. It's the equivalent of whatever the cost of the program is if they were running the ads themselves. Now, of course, if I'm jumping into the equation and they want to run ads and they have a $10,000 program, they need to have double that. Why? Just because. Just because I want to get them enough applicants and enough potential people to sign up for their program. Now, when I jump into promoting a coaching program, I at least want them to double their money back in the first month, which in theory would mean they only need 2 people or 3 people most of the time to be good to go. And then for every month after that, we scale, right? But if your offer is $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, you need to have the equivalent of that as your potential spend to start.
Love that. Love that. Probably the most real comment ever made on Facebook advertising ever. Thank you.
No problem. Now, let's break it down for webinars, because a lot of people run webinars. And I've had clients who crush it, no joke, for the last 18 months. And then I have clients who do well for a month, and then there's another month where it sucks, and then there's another month that does well. It's the part of the game, right? With webinars, I like to promote product no less than $300. That just seems to be my absolute minimum to make things work. So if your product's $300, let's just say $297, I'm okay with promoting that. Anytime I've sold something for less than $300, I've had to do far more work to acquire a sale. The amount of people who have to show up live and be on the replay list has to be sometimes 50% to 100% more than if you were to do something that's a $300 price point. So instead of, let's say, getting 500 registrants, I'd have to aim for going for 1,000, just to be sure that there's enough people to potentially buy a $97 or $197 product. I personally love the $500 or $1,000 price point on webinars as a sweet spot. Both have worked interchangeably for me and my clients since the beginning. I've had $1,000 product constantly perform well week after week after week on an evergreen basis and on a live basis when running a webinar ad campaign. Now, cost-wise, and Bill, you and I have talked about this in the past, you need to spend at least $2,000 to $2,500 to promote your webinar, period. And the reason for that being, let's say your worst cost per acquisition is $10, and that happens in IM because so many people are promoting webinars, you're looking at only having 200 to 250 registrants. Absolute worst case. Now you have to focus on the attendees anyway, right? Now you got to get them to show up. but at least you've had enough people get onto that registration list for you to work with getting them to attend. I've had people where their attendee list is only 50 people and they've closed $30,000.
And and see, it's kind of the opposite of what I'm experiencing, because I haven't gone out and gone after those cold leads that are all over like the way you have.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done is I've taken every email that's ever bought anything from me and turned that into an audience, all right? And then what I do is I target first world countries, and I set my bid for a click at 50 cents. Then I put up 5 or 6 ads, test out the best ones, cancel the ones that aren't performing, and let those run. And then I'm able to get anywhere from 200 to 500 clicks and only spend $50 to $100. Now, how like, if people were to take their links and upload them to Facebook, they could probably get started for a lot cheaper than starting with cold traffic by targeting these big internet marketing names. Am I wrong in this assumption?
No, you're 100% right. So if you have a pre-existing list to start with, your overall cost per click, your CPM, and even your overall lead cost will be much cheaper. In theory, it happens for most people that you should be able to at least fill the initial or starting point of your webinar with people who know who you are. For example, I have a pretty big webinar client. I mean, his list is 100 and something thousand people. It's when we started, it was 80. It's in like the 140s now. When we run ads to that list, we can get 500 to 1,000 people just from the list to sign up for his webinars. But of course, he wants new people to show up on his webinars too, to obviously build the list and so on and so forth. But the cost of acquiring people from his list to show up on the webinar, the registration page, and signing up, usually falls within $1.50 to $3 per registrant, depending on the topic. Right? Certain topics will perform better than others, and that's not including when he mails them or anything else. You know, sending them a reminder ad to tell them to show up to the webinar, sending them a reminder ad to tell them don't forget to register. There's a lot of factors. But if you're just advertising to your pre-existing list, you should be able to get people to sign up for $2 to $3 if they like you, if the topic aligns with what they want to learn.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like, just to give you an example, I targeted all first world countries: United States, UK, Canada, fucking Australia, and New Zealand. Those are the only countries I targeted. I uploaded my entire list, everyone that's ever bought anything from me, to create a retargeting audience. Mm-hmm. I'm getting anywhere from 4 to 5 cent clicks. So I don't.
But what's your? I think that there's a missing factor on what you're talking about and what David's talking about, from what I'm hearing. And for you, it's about clicks. The cost per registration is what matters. Like, to me, just to throw in an example, is when I do my whole list, my cost per registration goes way up than when I'm targeting the brand new fresh people from my thank you page. Right? Like, the cost goes way down for that, and I make a whole bunch more money on the back because they're fresh for that. But after time, your original offer is going to become generic to your big list. So in my experience, your cost per attendee goes up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think the reason this call is so important is because if we don't, as a group effort, as a community, as friends, as family, if we don't start bringing in new people to the industry is slowly going to like choke on its own blood.
It's a giant circle jerk right now.
Yeah, it's a huge circle jerk. We're passing around the same customers. Everyone's got the same list. And the reason for that is because the Warrior Forum died. It used to be somebody would find the Warrior Forum. They'd eventually end up on the WSO offer section. I remember you could go at any time of day, there'd be 10,000 people browsing that section. And any time one of those 10,000 bought a product, boom, they're in a potential customer for now everyone. But see, now that the Warrior Forum died, no one's driving traffic. So it's so important to find alternative traffic sources if you want to survive this bubble that's about to pop. Because I was actually watching Core Influence last night, the talk by Frank Kern. And he was talking about how, I made millions this, millions that. And the bubble that they were at that point, which did pop, and we all know it popped and it crashed, and people lost their businesses overnight. We're getting to that point on JV, and I want people to protect themselves. So that's why I wanted you to come on call, because if these people can start learning how to generate traffic on their own outside of having to rely on JVs.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to bring more and more people into the industry because we have to make a concerted effort to bring new customers in. And it's not going to happen if we're just all trading the same list and the same buyers. We're going to slowly die and choke in our own blood.
Can I run on that for a minute, just real quick, David?
Yeah, bro.
Do you think there are people, because what I think automatically in my brain, it's like, cool, great, the circle jerk's over. I can bring in my own customers, and I don't need the same tired old customer base that everybody's sharing. And I'm just wondering if maybe what we're seeing, because I think I mentioned this before, is an exodus of people from that launch base because they have figured to not only take care of and nurture the current customers, but they have guys like David who can go out there and see the value in the investment of guys like David and go out there and create their own following. And I think what we have now is we've got a bigger understanding in the marketing community where we have those guys that are taking off and just building their own thing and coming back to dip their toe to get a nice fresh piece from the market as a whole. Is that right? Like, am I off base?
To me, you're actually right on point. And honestly, the main problem that I've had in promoting, I'll just call it, marketing products to other marketers, right? Because that's essentially what IM has become, is that we're all promoting to the same list of people. We're all targeting the exact same interests on Facebook, or we're all targeting the same list of people. And look, I've even had custom audiences that have been developed from ads where all of a sudden it's showing up to the product owner themselves, and they're like, hey, how did I see your ad when, there's all these ways that you're just targeting the same people. Even people's custom audiences have a lot of the same people in it. So you're just going in a circle. You're targeting the same people all the time. And the problem is that people aren't innovating in a way of bringing people into the market, not just by the product they're creating, but by how they're advertising it to these people. They're not looking at, like I said, going after the real estate people and bringing them into the market to buy some product around how they can grow their business. They're not going after, if you think about it, it's like the SEO niche game years ago, right? Target the dentists and the doctors and the carpet cleaners and all that stuff and bring them in so they can use these strategies to grow their business. Everyone has sort of stopped doing that. Everyone has stopped looking at how they can sort of niche-base their product to these different markets to bring them in and say, look, I can give you more stuff for your business. You just got to follow me. And I feel that a lot of advertisers and or at least the advertisers marketing these people, not just myself, sort of dropped the ball in that case. I mean, even I can admit for a while I didn't go after brand new targets. I was like, we're crushing it with these people. And then I started to notice the downtrend where it's like, okay, we're going after the same people way too often. We need to start to gear away from that.
Absolutely. This has been a great segment, but we also need to talk about strategic partnershiping. So I'm going to close this segment on a question from Joe Lavery. Joe Lavery asks, David, are your clients getting the best results from weekly live webinars? And when do you recommend live webinars versus stealth webinars or ever webinars? So he's asking, do you recommend doing live webinars or just running them through the follow-up sequence and then just having an auto webinar?
All right, so I had this conversation this morning, so this is perfect. So with a webinar that's untested, you need to do live, and you need to put basically as much firepower into it as possible. What I mean by that is, if this is a brand new webinar and you haven't promoted to your list and you haven't run ads to it, the first time you run that webinar, you need to punch it as hard as you can with both your list and your ads, because you need to see if people are even interested, and then you need to see if it converts, right? So once you get some initial data from the first or even the second round of that webinar, then you can gauge whether or not you could turn it evergreen. That's the process that I take. Okay. Now, the other way of that, and this is about to counteract what I just said. I have a client right now where we're experiencing some of the live webinars just not getting enough attendees, right? We're getting these registrants, they're just not showing up as much as we want them to. We made the decision today to just make it an on-demand or just-in-time or top-of-the-hour evergreen webinar because we need more people to see it. and we've already run the webinar twice live. So because we've gotten to the third round and we just don't have a big enough sample size, we've decided consciously, let's just make it evergreen and see if we can maybe make a dent doing it that way instead. I personally like to start live, send as much traffic, as many registrants, and get as many attendees as possible, and then revert it to evergreen later.
Okay, cool. Bill, any final thoughts on this segment?
No, I was just going to comment on the doing it live. It just makes total sense because doing it live, you actually have the opportunity to run it 4 or 5 times live. Get your pitch ironed out, get the delivery, get the content, get everything ironed out. And as a presenter, each time you do that webinar, the better and better you get, especially if it's a new one. So I really like the live sequence setup because you do see a whole bunch of these auto webinars, and you know, some of them just like they need a little more honing on the delivery. You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, man, great stuff, David.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last thing I'll say about this is the reason I wanted to do this is because as a community we are bleeding customers. We need to be finding alternative traffic sources, whether that's Facebook ads, whether that's ranking on Google, whether that's ranking on YouTube. We all need to be making a concerted effort to bring more traffic and more buyers into the industry so that we can survive. And if we can do that, we'll limit the damage of the bubble that's going to be popping soon. So, great segment. Next segment is going to be talking about how to build strategic affiliate partnerships. Who would like to start on this?
I do. I just did a launch, and I think this is fantastic.
Okay.
I got some random affiliate questions from people I don't know that want to be affiliates. The best way to start a strategic relationship is not by walking up and demanding things like bonuses on the download page. Guys, come on. Really? You've got 3 sales and you're demanding a bonus spot? Come on. I just really had to get that out on live air because that just chatted my ass. It was like 3 or 4 people. And it's like, I don't know where you're getting stuff, but don't do that. Don't do that, guys. Now someone else can take it because that just, that gets me.
Yeah, I think, you know, and this is a bit off topic, but just to go off what you said, bonus spots are generally reserved for affiliates who can send 75 to 200 sales. You know, if you're the type of person, which is nothing wrong, if you can sell 15 sales, good for you. You are 95% ahead of everyone else in the game. But bonus spots are reserved for people that are going to hit it hard. So if you do
for
that,
premium affiliates.
Yeah, for the big affiliates. So if you go in and you ask that, you're going to embarrass yourself. Now, getting back onto the topic of how to build strategic affiliate relationships, here is my exact strategy to do it, and I do it with everyone. And it's not manipulative. It's just good-hearted networking because I want to meet people. Like, I've made a lot of great friends in this industry, a lot. And the way you do that is you focus on. You try to connect to them on that core level. Okay, you want to think about what their desires and needs are, and then just start a conversation. You know, people think it's so hard to network. It's not. You know, of course, one of the easiest ways to get in with someone is to promote their product, right? And then send them a message after you promote the product. Say, hey, man, great product. That's your lead into starting the conversation. And then, rather than talking about business, just start talking about shit. Start talking about life. Start saying, you know, oh, so hey, you know, oh, you're still working, you know, your day job. You know, how's that going? You think you'll be able to quit? Or hey, how's your daughter? I've got a daughter too. It's amazing. So you want to relate to them on a human level. You want to be affiliate, but you want to be friends. You know, we're a community. We're a family. We need to be friends. The other option you can take is to just message them and say, look, I'm new. I've got a new list. Do you have any advice? And that's actually a trick that Ben Franklin taught. If you want to get someone to like you, ask them for advice. Okay? If you want to build a friendship with someone important, ask them what they think. Because it's like a psychological little trick that they'll tell you what they think, and then suddenly they're like, they don't know why, but they're like, well, I must like this guy because I just gave him advice. And it works. But my strategy for strategic affiliate recruitment and networking and making friends is basically just to treat them like they're my buddies, you know, and really they are. I've made a lot of great friends. I mean, Mike from Maine, dude, I would take a bullet for Mike from Maine. That's how much I love that dude. You know, and he's an affiliate, but he's also a friend. So your goal should be to make friends, like networking, just like any industry, and then the business should come second. So don't be scared to talk about life. Don't be scared to talk about what's going on with you. Don't be scared to talk about things that you relate. Just be a human and be a person, and you'll have a friend. You know, and friends will support each other when the time is right and the product fits and everything else. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, you know, gosh, how do I introduce myself to Bill Hubel, or how do I introduce myself to David Schloss? You just open a conversation and be like, man, how's life? How's kids? You know, I'm new. I have. Do you mind if I ask you a question or two? I won't take up your time. You know, just be yourself. And the second best way that I think you can do it is to go to the event, because at the event you'll meet people that you've never met and you get a chance to hang out with them, and then you'll become friends that way too. David, what are your opinions on strategic affiliate partnerships and how to get them?
Sure. I mean, I'll use this as a great example. How I met Bill. We met at the San Diego JV Zoo event, and the reason I was able to actually talk with Bill was I handed him a beer and made a joke. I never met Bill previously. We were outside. He may not even remember this, but we were outside, and he came across because he knew someone in my inner circle. And then I went up to him, handed him a beer because we were all having one, and that started the conversation. Just from being aware of who he is. Everyone's talking to him. I don't know who he is. I'm going to go talk to him too, right? Well, one, events are huge. I've met the majority of my people, my inner circle, my affiliate group, whatever you want to call them, via events and masterminds. I've paid my way into people's circles for most of my business life, you could say. But at the same time, I also never start conversations about business, ever. I've never asked for a favor in business to most of the people that I know. That's another thing. But I've met most of these people from events. Bill was from an event. I mean, you know, Steve and we're gonna eventually meet. But it's like I've met, you know, Ben Adkins. I've actually met Ryan Dice. I've met all these people from events. Whether they were hosting it themselves or it was someone else's event, I went to that event and I did not talk about business whatsoever. How's family life? I might say something like, how'd the launch go, but I don't ask them about launching my stuff. I just want to know how they are doing. It's all about them. Exactly. And especially in the marketing space, little note here, everyone's full of ego. So feed it. Give them what they want to hear, because then they'll listen to you more.
The number one thing people want to talk about is themselves. And if you haven't read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, do it. There you go. It'll make you a networking master. You know, like fuck. I don't give a like. And another thing is, I take a very hands-off approach to affiliate recruitment. I say, hey, I've got this product. I think it could help people. It might be a good fit for your list. Check it out. But I don't care if you support it or not. You know, because to me, you're my friend before you're my affiliate. And for me, it's way more important to have a friend that may not support you now, but maybe they support you in 6 months and then send you 20 grand worth of sales. You know what I'm saying? So we have this subculture in the industry that's like, oh, you didn't promote me? Well, that's it. I'm never promoting you. I'm done with you. That is the worst business decision you could ever fucking possible make, because we all work together. We're a community. We're a small community. We're a family. And if you burn a bridge like that, you're an idiot. You're just a fucking idiot, because that same person that you just burned, maybe you didn't fit into their schedule, maybe they had something that was better for their customers and their list. They could have come down the line in 6 months or a year and promoted you, and then made you $10,000. But because now you're saying, well, you didn't promote me, so I'm not promoting you, you made yourself look like an asshole. So you have to take the hands-off, pure quality. I'm just here to help people. If you can promote it, cool. If not, no worries, bro. I can't wait to hang out with you at the next event. You know what I mean? That's the kind of approach that I take.
You know, to dig that point in, like, you never know who's who or who's coming. I love it, and he still tells me to this day. I remember when Luke McGuire brought out his first product ever, and he didn't really know what he was doing. He had some good people he was working with, but he was just putting it all together and getting used to the scene and all that stuff. And I helped him out. Like, I didn't promote it at all, but I helped him out anyways. I think everybody knows that Luke puts on some pretty good launches nowadays. And he comes back, and he's always coming to me just saying, hey, man, what do you got? Let me just help and let me support. And there was no intention there. I just tried to help. I think one of the most strategic things you can do is just help and not even care about yourself. Yeah. Like, I know that sounds crazy if you're someone who's thinking, like, oh, well, I got to get my launch off the ground, or I got to do this, or I got to do that because it's about me. But one of the things, and I'll say him because he's one of my best friends in life, is Simon Harry's taught me. Our first relationship building, we spent a week talking about golf, and we didn't even talk about business at all. So I know that's encompassing, but he's always there. Like, if I needed an image, he was able to make it for me because I didn't know the right people at the time to just get one quick. It always took a couple days. He's like, dude, let me take care of it for you. Just help out any way you can, absolutely everybody. And it's funny, when you're building goodwill out there, it does come flying back to you.
Yeah.
It might not be today, but I think everybody's obsessed with this is my launch and it's my last hurrah. But really, dude, it's just another blip on your radar and you'll have more.
Yep.
So just get over it.
And I'll throw this in as well, by the way, just another thing that I've done to not just gain partnerships, but friendships, because essentially those friendships have turned into phenomenal partnerships down the road. I've actually given people an entire course of material and said, hey, just give this as a bonus to your people. I don't want anything in return for it. Now, I know a lot of people who are affiliates who won't do that. That's fine. But I'll tell you right now, as someone who's been in business for 9 years, I would say I've been a part of the IM community more along the lines of like 5 to 6, taking it seriously. I've given away enough material to fill up an entire membership site of just multiple courses. And if I ever come to someone and say, hey, could you please promote my product, there will not be a slight hesitation because of how much I've given to people for free, to their members, to their coaching students. Man. Just tons of goodwill. And, I mean, I've never gone to Bill for anything. And, I mean, I've told Bill stuff to do with ads and whatever. I mean, if it ever came to the point where I needed some help on something, I'm sure I could reach out to Bill. But I don't ask for anything otherwise. I just, hey, man, if you need anything, let me know. And so I give and give and give.
Right there, because you're on point. And because you've done that, every chance that I get in my life to instruct people towards Facebook ads or paid traffic or anything is always sent directly to David because he has done those things. And I don't think we're putting direct money like, hey, David, here's your money for a launch or anything like that. We're not putting direct funds into each other, but you can always help bring awareness just because of goodwill. And, dude, you're the guy that I talk about. I think we've had, numerous chats, a couple on air now, and definitely some posts letting people know every time we have a chat because, you know what, I don't want anything. You're just a top shelf guy about that. And if people work that way in the launching space, just in general, that's how it works, man. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. You know what I mean? Anything you ask. Bill, I'm putting a launch out. Dude, in a heartbeat. Don't even ask. I'm booking out a week.
Exactly. And look, it's like I've built enough rapport over the years that if I ever decide to do a launch, it won't be small. You know what I mean? I've just taken the time to build relationships with people. And if you actually take some time to do that versus trying to get a quick hit from the beginning, you might have more success much quicker out of the gate instead of struggling your first 2 or 3 launches.
Yeah, and I agree. So just to summarize, if you want to get into the circles, if you want to meet people, you just be friends with them, right? You introduce yourself. You avoid talking about business at first. You ask questions, genuine questions, don't manipulate people. And then you help any way you can. I mean, I've done the same thing. I've gone out on one of my students' launches, and I said, look, guys, this is going to flop if you don't change this, this, and this. And they're like, shit, oh, shit, okay. And they change it. They're like, how much money do you want? I said, I don't want any money. You guys are my friends. I want to see you succeed. So put forward that goodwill. Treat people like not potential moneymakers. Just treat them like friends and be genuinely interested in who they are. And
Mhm.
if you haven't read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, do it. And that'll really kind of lay out um, how to ethically make friends. I mean, I have so many good friends that I've made in this industry, and I don't even see them as affiliates. They're just friends, and this atmosphere that we have right now with among a small segment of 40 to 50 vendors of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You know, that is a very dangerous atmosphere to be in. I know the industry has run that way for years, but there is a better way to do it, and I promise you, you will make more money if you take the more friendly. Let's get to know each other, because I mean we're coworkers. You know,
Mhm.
guys, we're coworkers. We're all over the world. We're all over different parts of the world. But at the end of the day, we're coworkers. And if you were in an office, you wouldn't treat a coworker like shit. You'd be going out to lunch with them. So make friends, be nice, put everyone else before yourself, and you'll have no problem recruiting affiliates. So you guys have any final words here? We're running up on the 60 minutes, so we got about a minute and a half left.
David, do you want to go first?
Yeah, go to events, meet people, be yourself, and naturally people will flock to you. Stop trying to go up to people with the intention of taking and start giving, and you'll be just fine.
For sure. And to add to that, guys, I mean, just the moral of the story is in these relationships and stuff, and just being other people are genuine and being them. And what you will find is you will find those people that to them this is just 100% about business, and all they care about is when your next launch is and what's happening for you. And you'll be able to put those guys into just from going out, being you, and taking action with the things that you're doing in life, and just trying to get out there and expand your network. So you're going to find all kinds of people. You're going to find the ones where you just go when you've got a copy and paste JB notice, and you're going to find the other ones that you enjoy talking to when you're not there. Enjoy it. Enjoy the people, man. We only get one crack at it.
Yep. Frank Kern talks about finding your core. If you haven't seen his core influence talk, go watch it. Write down all the questions he asked. Spend 4 to 5 hours filling that out, and then you will have no problem talking to people. You will have no problem making friends. Otherwise, guys, hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll be here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're also available at marketinghour.guru. We're also available on SoundCloud and iTunes. Please share this with your friends. We're also considering doing a live event in Vegas, like from airplane to airplane, and covering the event for those of you who can't make it. So we've got some big plans. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So stay tuned. And David, thanks for being here, buddy.
You got it, guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir.
All right, buddy. Well, Bill, enjoy your soccer game. I am going to go mow the lawn.
Word up. Later, guys. Have a great day.
All right. See you later.
Have a good one.